Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Joy of the Hobby podcast. This is episode 7 in Essential Credentials production. We're here with our fathers. We've been talking about this one for weeks and weeks and weeks. Super excited to be able to do this. So thank you all for joining. Happy to have you here. Ben, how are we doing today?
I am really excited for this, both for my dad to share some stories and your dad as well, and learn more about his history with the hobby and y'all's together. I'm also learning to love the name Dadcast. This could potentially be a recurring thing.
I agree.
Okay.
Drop a Dadcast every once in a while.
Yes,
Sure.
I agree with that. Great. Well, I'm glad that you're excited about it. Dad, how are you feeling about this?
Well, this is fun. I never thought I'd be on the station with you guys. So, yeah, this is fun.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
We've done a few interviews about your albums, but we've never actually had you on here to talk about cards, even though
Right.
you're part of that in my
Right.
life.
Yeah.
How about yourself, David? How are you feeling about this?
I'm a little nervous, but I think I can get through it.
Well, I mean, I will speak for many people when I say that after I've had a chance to meet you and listen to all the great conversations we had in Cleveland, that was really a highlight for me. Obviously, becoming good friends with your son was wonderful, but also you can carry the load of a conversation quite easily. So I don't think we're going to have any trouble. Dad, I'm sure you'll be reminded of Grumpy Gramps by the end of this, because my grandfather was the same way. So this is going to be great. So Persh, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. We're happy to have you here. All right. So how we start this show is like we always talk about what's bringing us joy in the hobby. Right now, obviously, you know, Dad and David, you guys don't collect or really collect the way that we do. But I know you guys have your eyes on social media and see all sorts of different things with cards and stuff. So I'm sure you'll be able to jump in. So I'm going to throw it to Ben first. Ben, what is something within the last couple of weeks since our last episode that's really bringing you joy in the hobby?
Well, really, this month has been a bigger month in terms of me getting cards, but all of them really have been focused on the way the card looks. So I haven't made a bunch of big purchases other than one I did share with you. It was one that I've been waiting for a long time. So that fits right in our end of the month recap, which we'll be putting out this week. That's a long awaited, maybe overpaid, don't really care at all. One of those things that you just wait for a long time when you get it. Man, it's like, it's both a relief and such an excitement at the same time. So that's been the big thing that's been on my mind is, man, the relief of getting something I've been looking for. And then on the flip side of that, just little stuff that's kind of been always available and getting it in hand and being like, man, it just looks even better in hand. Like little pieces of art that are generally like not very expensive that I've been getting, just being like super excited about that again. I know that's something we're trying to avoid somewhat with the way we're collecting this year, but some of these just, it's that when you get them in hand, the design look of them just supersede the I'm slimming down my collection right now. Some of these just beat that sentiment out this time.
Yeah, there's a few. There's definitely a few, right? Especially when there's that artistic element to it. I think it's hard to pass.
Yeah, so that artistic bug got me this month. Maybe some of the conversations we've had or whatever, but it just hit me. And some things I was like, that's a buy it now in the mode I'm in right now. The vibe I have right now is this is a buy it now.
Well, I'm excited to see what that is for sure. How about you, David? Like when you're looking at the hobby recently, is there anything that you see that excites you?
Yeah, I don't track as much as Ben does. Every once in a while, Ben will send me something and want my opinion of it. And that pretty much draws me back into eBay to look at it and kind of see what I think. I don't have any idea for the range of value that Ben has that he's developed. And so, I ask a lot of questions to see if he can give me answers that make sense. And generally, after we've had a deep conversation on a card, Ben will decide not to buy it, particularly if it's a pretty expensive card, because he'll think of 5 other things he could buy for that much money that he really wants anyway. So he'll talk himself out of a high-end card pretty fast. But we still share ideas, and he'll still ask me what I think, which I'm always honored that he does that, because I know that he has so much more knowledge about cards now than I did, or than I do, and definitely than I did when he and I were involved together in card collecting.
But see, that needing Dad's approval for a card never goes away. That's how we got started, and me being like, Dad, this is cool, right? And you being like, yeah, it is cool. Like, I still have that. I still need Dad to sign off that this is a cool card.
That's funny. I
That's
remember
great.
I used to do that, I think, with shoes with my father. Like, what do you think of these shoes? He's like, I don't know. I'm not really feeling those. But then he ended up starting to buy them too. So, it's all good. But, I mean, Big Dad, I know you follow me on social media and you see the stories that I post and whatnot. So, when you're seeing some of the stuff lately, is there anything that you're excited about that you've been enjoying with seeing the cards getting posted?
Well, the one thing I've noticed is back when I used to collect them is that the actual face of the card was pretty plain.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like it might be, Roberto or Clemente's face, right?
Right.
And not so much action in it. I've noticed that the cards nowadays have a lot of colors. And it's a pretty good action shot of the athlete doing his thing. It's a lot different than when I did it, but I think that's about it. As far as the price of the cards you guys collect, I mean, I'm not aware of any of that stuff. I just think, wow, for a piece of cardboard with a photo on it. But I get it because I used to collect those things when I was little. But back then, I didn't really think about the value. But the value now, wow, it's incredible.
Yeah, I've actually told a couple of times my dad will hit me up, be like, so what did this one cost? And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I
gotta have that tough conversation.
Like, this was $250. He's like, what? Why would you pay that much?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah, but I think for you and I, Ben, it's fun to explain to somebody who maybe doesn't understand why, like explaining the why of something being that expensive, because to somebody who doesn't know, like it's a piece, like Dad said, it's a piece of cardboard, right? Like, why would it be worth that much? Like, there's all these different factors that determine a value of a card, just like they did, for vintage cards that you guys are familiar with. So it is pretty fun to have those moments with my dad where I'm like, well, see, this piece of mem is this, and it's numbered out of 5, and it's like this and this and this, and Marc-Andre Fleury, everybody loves them. So it's different than when we collected as a kid because the cards were much more simple back then, right? There's not nearly as much going on.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an interesting, fun segue. The reasons we might collect a specific card, you or I, today is we can list X, Y, Z. I did a whole blog post on here, the bullet points for the things I'm looking for, and this is why I decided to purchase this card. But before we jumped on here, your dad and my dad were both talking about why and how they collected cards when they were younger, how they came across it. I think that's like a fun story to share because there's a different reason why you were doing it back then, right? Like, I know, Bobby, I can throw it to you, like kind of the fun and why you were even getting the cards to begin with, I think is just so different, but still meaningful when you were collecting growing up.
Right. Yeah. So, I was telling you guys before the show, for us, we knew that the local grocery store had all the baseball cards, some football, no hockey, nothing like that. But what we would do is we would collect pop bottles from our back porch or from our neighbors who didn't want to cash them in. Because back in the old days, soda came in bottles, and you could take those bottles to a grocery store. They would give you money for it, right? So we had a red wagon. We'd load it up. Me and the neighborhood kids, we'd all have our wagons. We'd go to the store, cash in our bottles, turn around and buy the baseball cards. And then we would all, after we got our cards, there was a community college football field right by our neighborhood. And we would all go there, sit up on the hill, open our packs and pass them to our friends and show them what we got. They would show us what they got. It was just an awesome time. And it was I'd have to say it was a different thing just to get them back then. Mm-hmm. We just felt lucky to be able to get the cards in the first place. Even though they weren't that expensive, it was just something really, really cool. And so I remember I used to have shoe boxes full of these things, and I wish I would have kept them. But, like we had talked about, I had a whole bunch of like Mickey Mantles and Roberto Clemente and all those other baseball stars that I just wish I would have saved. But it was so much fun back then just to share with your friends what you got.
Yeah, and that was the value, right? It was the community and going through it together and like earning the cards was the fun
Exactly.
part.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome.
Dad, you kind of had a similar thing, right? In some respects, you'd have to go get the cards, or maybe you were just getting them for the gum. I don't know.
Oh, that's right.
Well, I never was really I don't think a card collector in the sense that Matt and Ben are, but right. I did wind up with some cards as a youngster. The Mantle race for 60 home runs, was a big deal all over the country at that time.
Yep.
And so you could get Mantle and Maris cards for free out of cereal boxes if you got the lucky one. And I got both of them. But the hot thing to do then was to pin them onto your bike and get rapid sounding clicking noise, which the card would last maybe a few days. Be completely halfway torn up. So I don't know how much money I wasted doing that. But then later, I got into cards really with Ben when he was young. I don't know whether it was 7, 8, 9 years old.
Mhm.
And he had a friend whose father was into it, and his friend was into it. And so Ben was really interested. And so he kind of drew me into it. And I would find myself up very late at night watching for a card trade that wasn't going to finish till 1 a.m. because I knew Ben would love to have this card, and I would just keep bidding it to see if I could get it for him. So,
My dad was an early eBay adopter, staying up late to watch auctions. This had to be 98, 99. I mean, we had just gotten a computer and we went straight to eBay, and you were like an eBay hound. Early.
so
you were
That's
watching
cool.
auctions and like doing research. You really dove in because I think you saw how much I liked it, and it was like a learning thing. Like
Yeah.
he saw the value in not just the getting the cards and like having them just to have them, but like I was learning something about the value of them and like mowing lawns to go to, and he would take me to the card shop. You buy a pack and just be
Right.
insanely disappointed, or you could learn to buy a single, save 3 lawn mows and buy 1 single.
Yeah.
Like there was a whole thing that I think he was getting joy out of me learning that. And
Yeah.
then the fun of just like learning more about the cards at the time, because
Yeah.
this happened to be late 90s. It was an explosion of different companies and technologies. And
Oh, yeah.
Beckett magazine. I think my dad was the one that got the Beckett magazine subscription. I didn't even get it.
I got it.
Yeah. So you got it, and you would like read it, and I'd go find my cards in it. Like it kind of
Yeah.
became a thing we were kind of doing together because you saw I liked it, but it was also kind of fun for both of us to like, I don't know, you just got really into late night research stuff. And I was like, oh, I just want to circle my cards and see if they went up or down.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite young enough to see the way you were doing it until I was much older.
Yeah, I had a separate box of cards because Ben didn't want me to buy cards and give them to him, really. I mean, he wanted to own them himself and earn them. And so I was collecting this separate box. And finally, when he got more involved in other things in high school and then college, and I combined all of the cards into a single box and reorganized them a little bit so they would be easy to find the way he had been organizing them. And then he
Nice.
came back around later and said, "Hey, you still got all those baseball cards?" Because he got interested again. And so we did that. And initially, too, I was probably influencing him a little bit toward, I thought the safest players were dead, the ones that didn't live anymore. So I was really focused on T206s and even before that, some cards from the 1800s. And I looked at a lot of cards in the 30s, 1930s, and bought some there. But I was worried about the value of cards that were more contemporary, and they kept doing stranger and stranger things in the 90s and early 2000s. I thought, I don't even understand these cards anymore. So Ben always helped me through it, though.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting hearing you guys talk about that because, Dad, you actually collected a little bit too. We didn't get a chance to do it together necessarily because we were living in 2 different places. But Dad, you had a pretty good at one point set of different Pinnacle hockey cards, right? So you kind of got into it with me. Do you feel like you got into it because of me, or do you feel like you got me into it? Like I'm trying to decide which one happened first.
I got into it because of you, son. I haven't collected cards for, 25 years until I took you to the card store, right, and introduced you to it. And then as you collected, then I started collecting, and it was, for me, it was mostly hockey goalie cards. And I would take you to the shop that was in Federal Way, Washington.
Oh yeah.
And I knew the owners, and I would, I know which ones that you wanted to get, but I would let you go in there and pick them. And then I would try to get something. If they had a duplicate, I would try to get that too.
Right.
But I got back into it because of you for that. I think it was like a 3 or 4 year period.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad really liked the Pinnacle Mask cards a lot. That first set.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, I have to show this card. Dad will remember this one. This is Jocelyn Tebow's rookie card. That was one of the first sets my dad put together the full set. And fun
nice.
fact, I had a friend send this to him, and Jocelyn Tebow inscribed it with how many wins he had and signed it. So that was super cool. Jimmy Budney did that for me, so it was super nice of him to do that. But that was one of my first memories of like my dad collecting along with me, you know. And so I'm curious, you know, Ben, what is that first set that you remember collecting with your dad? And because that definitely helped build up the love for collecting for me.
Yeah. It's an interesting question because at the time when I jumped in, I got straight into Griffey because we're thinking this is like 97-ish where I get in. He's the biggest thing in the world. I'm kind of getting into baseball, playing with my friends. You look over, you're like, this guy's the superstar. That's what I want to collect, just Griffey stuff. And to my dad, you know, like he said, he's like, well, I don't know, Mickey Mantle was kind of the best. Like the guys that I grew up watching were the best. So I don't know about this young guy Griffey you're so hot on. You know, and Dad, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would kind of feel that way, right? If I had my kid, I'd be like, well, the guys that I admired when I was younger are definitely better. I mean, Ted Williams, definitely better than Griffey. This guy Griffey you think is so cool. I think there's a bit of a difference there, but by you showing that card, it reminded me that 92 Pinnacle set, that was the year Jeter had a rookie in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first cards I opened were 93 Upper Deck, which had a Griffey, a Jeter rookie, but that 92 Pinnacle also had a Jeter rookie. It was like a portrait shot. And I really wanted that one. I was like, Dad, I really wanted a Jeter rookie. I don't know if he'll remember this, but he then did his crazy thing where he does a bunch of extra research about Jeter and rookies. And he actually ended up buying this card.
Oh,
Yep.
man.
So he bought this
Wow.
SP foil Jeter rookie, I think for like $15 at the time. He's like, Ben, I think this is the right one. I did a bunch of research and this is the one you should own. I was like, I don't know, that Pinnacle one with the portrait shots, like really cool. It's in 92 versus 93. I was making my case and he was like, I did some research. I think this is the one you actually
He
want.
was right.
And he
Very
was
cool.
right. And this is my dad was like, I think this is the one you want.
That's it.
And it was an example of like him doing his kind of thing on his side, me wanting my thing. And of course, now looking at this, I also like this card more. Technology, the history of this card, everything about this card is better
Yep.
than the Pinnacle one,
Yeah.
just objectively. But it was actually his call on which Jeter rookie we bought. And so this is the same copy that's been in my collection since he bought it. It's the same exact one. I never upgraded it, never changed it. All I did was put it in a one touch. That's it.
Wow.
David,
So
do you remember
same
that?
exact copy.
I do remember that card. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember the conversation now they brought it up. And I didn't have any real basis other than comparing it to some recently sold cards that I thought,
Mhm.
I think this card's got more life in it in terms of, and, you know, we were trying to look at cards mostly that we could afford, but also that, you know, might have some potential for growth and value.
Mhm.
Because you also got this in like 97, 98-ish. So Jeter wasn't like the biggest name ever yet.
Right.
He was on his way up still. So it wasn't an expensive card yet. But I think we got this from AAA, which was the shop that was close to us that
Yeah.
he would take me to all the time. That was our local shop. I remember it being in the case. And he was like, that's the one we're going to get. And you're just going to be cool with it because I think I'm right. And he was.
He was right. Isn't it like a $200 card now?
Raw, yeah, probably 200. And this one happens to be in great condition. He was picky because they had a few of them in the case at the time. It wasn't like a particularly really sought after card at the time.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, that makes me kind of curious too, Dad. Like, do you, like, because obviously we went to that one shop, the female owner was in there. It's super cool. Kind of when we transitioned into baseball too. But do you remember like going into the shops and like kind of taking account of everything that was in there and like wondering which one was going to be better, or did you just grab the cool goalie cards every time?
It's kind of a little bit of both, right?
Right.
Because the owners of that one shop you're talking about, they on days when I would work and the places where I was working, their shop was where I was supposed to be. So I would stop by and talk to them, and they were familiar with you. And I would ask them, I mean, what's the nicest card coming out, or what do you got that you think is going to be worth some value? And they would set these cards aside.
Right.
And if they had duplicates or triple copies of the same card, you know, they would let me look at them, and I'd say, okay, my son will be here this weekend when I'm not working, or, you know, I'll bring him down. Can you save us one of those? That sort of thing. But
Right.
There was another store, a card store that was at the mall in Federal Way,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where they had a really large baseball collection.
Yeah.
And at that time, you were really into the Mariners, and so I would stop by and kind of look and see what they had, if they had Joey Coras or Jay Buners or Griffey's and that sort of thing. Their Griffey's were a little bit higher priced than the other store, but I knew they were nice cards, and so when you would come down, I'd take you there as well.
Yeah, I mean that's a great segue into because again the stories are going to be the best part of this episode probably. Yeah, long story short, we would go to a movie there either before or after the card shop in the mall.
Mm-hmm.
So the first time we went there, I decided to go see Hunchback of Notre Dame instead of Independence Day. I'm never going to live that one down.
So, we know who won that one.
Oh, geez.
I was like asking him, Matt, are you sure you want to go see Hunchback?
Dude, are you totally sure?
Yes, Dad. And I'm thinking, oh, brother. Okay.
And that was
so funny.
Trailers weren't like now. You can go see a trailer on your phone real quick if you want to make sure that it's a good movie to go see. But back then, I hadn't even seen a trailer. So, and funny enough, I watched that movie constantly after that with my good friend David growing up. But the next time we went back, we went and saw Gladiator. And so we go to the card shop, and we're looking through the singles box. That's right. There were single boxes of base cards of Griffey and everybody because they were that popular. And there was a certain card in there that we saw. I wore this jersey in particular because this color jersey was always my dad and I's favorite jersey on the card for the Mariners. So we saw this one Griffey, and it was like $6. And my dad's like, I don't think we can do it, son. I'm sorry. And we kept talking about it, kept thinking about it. So we're sitting in the movie theater watching, Gladiator and watching all these battles and these crazy things. My dad leans over and goes, we got to go back and get that card. And so this is the same card right here. Dad will probably remember it. It had that really cool SE.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And I remember going back and getting that after the movie, and we were so nervous, like it's not going to be there. It's not going to be there. And we went through, and I knew exactly where it was in the box. I think I'd stuck it in the back or something. So it's really cool to still with that Jeter and with this Griffey to own the exact card. I mean, they carry extremely high sentimental value as opposed to what this is actually worth, right? So I had to share that one, Dad. I was curious if you'd remember anything like that because we used to do that a lot.
I remember that exact story. Yeah, I remember. And I think when I told you that, I don't think we can get it. I'm thinking in my mind, yeah, we'll probably get it. But I thought I'm having him sweat just a little bit, but we'll get it for him.
Yeah. I definitely want to show this person who left a comment, Jada Burrows. Not sure if anybody knows who that is, but what's up? Welcome. Good to see you, sis. Jeff is here as well. And then our buddy Luke is in here as well.
Nice.
What's up, Luke? Nice to see everybody. So anything like that, Ben, ringing true? Because you shared some really cool stories with your dad there about going back and getting cards and thinking about a certain one. I don't want to ruin it or anything, but is there one card in particular that you both talked about and went back and grabbed or anything like that?
I have a few sitting out here, but I'm actually curious to throw it to my dad and see if he has a particular memory about a card or a show, or we went to a shop and got one card in particular. Because I have one I could pull up that I remember that you would immediately remember.
Yeah. Well, the only one that, I've told you this before, Ben, the only card that, I saw you get so excited over, but later turned out not to be as good a deal as we thought. We opened a pack one time, and I can't remember the player's name, but you'll remember.
I have the card right here because I still own it.
That's it. That's the card.
To this day, this is the exact copy, and it's in the same jewel case they put it in at the card shop when we opened it.
Oh, that's cool.
I've never touched it from this case at all.
Let's go full screen. We want to see this one. Who is this?
So this is Mark Pryor.
Oh,
and this is from Sweet Spot, a 2000. I don't even see. That's the thing. I pull it out. It's the 2001 Sweet Spot. So this was a new product, right? This was one in every 2 boxes. You could get one of these signatures.
Wow.
And we bought one pack, which was $9. It was an insane price for one pack of cards, right? That's the whole budget for the day. We go home from the shop after this, right? That's everything from the day. And we pulled this, and Mark Pryor at the time was the guy. It was when I was first starting to think about prospects, and he was the next big ace pitcher at the time. And we just lost our minds. The guy, Bob, that was there that sold us the pack, lost his mind and got excited about it. And it was just such a big deal. I remember you and I both being excited about it because we were looking for Mark Pryor. We were like, do we buy some Mark Pryor cards? I don't know. It's risky.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm thinking about prospecting at that time, and he's like, "You're buying active players. That's risky enough." He's like, "I want to buy dead players or Hall of Fame players."
Right.
He's like, "And now you want to talk about a guy that's not hardly played at all?"
Yeah. But then, it turned out to be a disaster when his arm, his arm got to where he couldn't throw in the next year, and that was it. But he's turned into a great coach for the Dodgers, which is my favorite team. So, I'm happy.
Yeah, it's just a great memory of actually pulling. Like, you never pull a card like that ever of the person you're kind of thinking about. Like, the whole thing was nuts. We were just so excited.
Well,
It's funny you remembered that one too.
In the card shop, he was jumping all around, showing it to everybody.
Yeah, it was the original like breaking go nuts move. I jumped around everywhere. It was the one card you're like, "There's no way we got that. That's so crazy."
Well, this is a great segue. I think Dad knows where I'm headed. I've told the story a few times, but never told it. You don't know where I'm going with this?
I think I do. Go ahead.
Great. I mean, very few times as a collector do you have those moments where you open something and you're beyond elated. I've had very few. I've had a couple as an adult where it's like, I'd love to see this one card, and you actually get it and you're like, no way. Like, it's hard to replicate it, but your first time with that feeling, it'll be ingrained forever. Not only as the collector, but as the dads who see their sons losing their minds. And so there's a particular set that I will love forever and ever, a baseball set that a coworker, can't believe I can say this, Jean and her husband worked on design-wise back in '96. And when you first saw those cards, you're just like, what is this? It's called Meta Universe. So I'll start with the Yvonne Rodriguez. Dad will remember how awesome it was when we saw this card for the first time. What the heck is my camera doing? It's like losing its mind. So you'll remember just how big these cards were, right? I mean, they were so cool because they had the comics going on, right? And so, well, before I can get my camera figured out here, it wants to hang out over there. There we go. We were just blown away because my dad was a comic book fan. He's like, these are the coolest things I've ever seen.
Perfect blend, yeah.
Yeah, to actually get these on a card was amazing, right? And so having comic artists on there was like something we had never heard of. And so we bought the Griffey that day, which was amazing. And many months later, my dad visited me for Christmas up in Alaska, which was not easy for him to get to, right? We were kind of out in the middle of nowhere in a way. And he bought like 5 packs for Christmas of Meta Universe, 5. And think about it, it's like a 200 card set. Well, at the time, my favorite player was Joey Cora, and I didn't even know if he was in the set because back then, checklist, you could get the checklist cards, but it wasn't online. You couldn't just go online. And
You had to find a Beckett somewhere and read the Beckett.
And even then, Joey Cora's not in the Beckett, right? He's not in the Beckett.
Oh, true.
He's not even a semi-star at that point. So we didn't even know if he was in the set. We had never seen the card. So we just opening, and I swear it was like the second pack, and I have the card still. Joey Cora came out of there in the second pack, and we both like, Dad, do you remember me in the hotel room? I was just like losing my mind.
Oh yeah, I remember it well.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was, and to like share, like just like you're saying, man, to share those moments with our fathers, and hopefully someday we both get to share with our own children when they come along. If they come along, is like those are some of like the most important core memories as a collector that you will never want to lose, right? And I think this day and age, in a way, with how expensive everything is and the grading and the flipping and this and that, so many people, especially young collectors, lose sight of that, right? And those memories to me are worth 100 times more than any expensive Marc-Andre Fleury card. As much as I love them, like this card will always mean a lot more to me, just like your Mark Pryor card, right? Knowing how much that memory was special, right? And so I thought it was important that we got to share those stories because I don't hear much about that anymore. And I really do love YouTube when you see a dad opening packs with his son or daughter, and they're like, oh, we got Ohtani. And it's like, it's a $1 card, but that's not
the base card.
Right? That's not the point at all. It's the who it is. It's like pulling Tom Barrasso out of a pack. We would freak out, like, oh my gosh, so I think I'm really glad that we were able to bring that up because those memories, I hope they make our dads happy still because they certainly made us really happy, right? But it's something that I never want to lose. Do you still think about those things from time to time, Ben?
I mean, I know I do. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the core for my collection is specific cards that make memories. And that's why I think when you and I decided to do the show kind of in this vein with this theme,
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing that resonated with me the most. And like, I'll be honest, like when I got back into cards, that was me and my dad talking more specifically about this and having fun conversations that would lead to other conversations. Like, it really is at the end of the day, like a relationship thing. And that's one of the things I've enjoyed so much about getting back into it seriously. It's not, yeah, in part it's about bettering my collection because I do enjoy that, but it really is like having fun talking about it. Like, I could easily talk about cards and hang out and just talk with people that enjoy the same thing, this space specifically, without having anything I picked up that I feel like I need to show off, or like the one up, or like look at this big thing I got. Like, I'll say, for example, one thing that I need to get Dad to follow my Instagram feed I'm doing now is just going through everything that I have alphabetized, and a lot of that stuff that I'm going through and just posting directly to my Instagram, not my latest big pickup or the huge new Grail acquired. It's just going through the alphabetical section of my collection. So I have it like split with some vintage stuff, some of like the two main guys that I PC now, Ichiro and Bonds, and then just an alphabetized part. And a lot of the stuff that's alphabetized is just a mix of like some stuff I picked up because I like the way it looks, and some of it's just stuff I picked up when I was a kid. And it's just the old kid PC, and I can go through and be like, I remember exactly when I got this card, why I got it, where I was with my dad. I showed it to him. He didn't understand what it was because it was a weird time of cards. You know, it's this thing that's the gold out of this number and it's super rare. And he's like, cool. I mean, I'm glad you're stoked.
Yeah, that's what my dad would always say. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, there was a lot of that in the 90s where it was like, I don't understand this card. It's see-through. Sure. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm glad you're excited.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, actually, this reminds me of a question. I'm going to throw it to David first, and then Dad, go after him. But you know, got to see David at the National, and I know he walked around with you, Ben, and he kind of knew what you were looking for, but he also went off and looked at his own stuff. Mm-hmm. Dad, you've been to a couple of card shows there in Washington with me, which was really cool to see. So, David, I'm going to throw this to you first. Like, you went to a lot of shows when Ben first started, and it was great, and card shops and all this stuff, and it was there wasn't too much. It was kind of either vintage or this new 90s stuff, right? That was it. But when you went recently last year in Cleveland and you were seeing just all the amounts of different types of collecting, like, first of all, what stood out to you, and what was like the biggest difference that you notice now as compared to when you went to shows with, you know, Ben when he was younger?
Yeah, well, when Ben was younger and we were doing cards, the shows that we had here in Charlotte where we were living, and I still live, were pretty small shows. And, you know, it would be, 25 or 50 booths maybe of guys that had been collecting for a long time. And most of them were older cards. You didn't see a lot of the contemporary cards, and most of those folks were even older than, you know, I was at the time that had these older cards. But Ben and I would have a great time talking to these guys and looking at the cards. And so we did go to a lot of shops, but one in particular, that AAA that Ben mentioned earlier, we knew the people well and they were easy to deal with. And we had a lot of fun in there, you know, trading cards and buying cards. And sometimes I just dropped Ben off because he had gotten so knowledgeable that he didn't need me.
I would just hang out there.
He would hang out there for a few hours, and I didn't have that kind of time to spend. So I would not, I'd leave him there and come back and get him. But, you know, it was great fun. But I have to say, the National that I went to, that's the first time I've ever done that. Mm-hmm. And I saw the whole spectrum of what's going on. And I know the newer cards are more complicated. And Ben and I have, you know, debated as to whether or not a card with this exactly the same card with, you know, the gold having 25 signatures and then, you know, these colors, whether or not that's going to be a sustainable value in some of those cards when you have identical cards trading at different prices, almost identical cards,
right?
Except for the count and the colors. And I don't know that colors make much difference. It's the player and so I had my reservations, and Ben has expressed the same concern to me some about some of the newer cards in the last 10 years, let's say. Right. And so, you know, Ben has gotten so far ahead of me that I will listen to him, and he wants my opinion. And sometimes I'm scratching my head to wonder why. But Usually I'll ask him about values, and he has great spots he goes to take a look at that.
Mhm.
But what I see in him more recently is he's more interested in getting 5 cards that are going to mean a lot to him. Where at one point, he might have looked at one card that costs twice as much as the 5 he wants to buy now, and so I think he's making really wise decisions, and he knows more about the sport than I could ever know because of the time he spent. So I have a lot of respect for what he's accomplishing. Recently, none of us have done well in the stock market, and that's kind of what I'm living on now. And so, when I look at Ben and he was complaining to me about the stock market the other day, I said, now, wait a minute, you're diversified. You own some real estate, you own some cards, and you're not all in the market, and you're young enough, it's going to recover. Don't worry.
Right. Yep.
So we still have those kind of honest conversations, and I think he's done really well. I'm real proud of him and proud of the fact that he's doing this because he loves it more than he's doing it to make money, and that impresses me a great deal. So,
I'll
That's
say,
awesome.
Dad, you seem baffled sometimes when you are wondering why I'm asking for your insight, but sometimes there's like a wisdom about some things that you pick up. I have one that you picked up a long time ago that even until the last, I would say, like 3 years was not a card that people were like really gung-ho going after, but you saw something in it and picked it up like 20 years ago. And now it's a card people really, really go after. And it's this 1953 Bowman Pee Wee Reese with this
Right.
action shot. This was that
Oh,
color
yeah.
Bowman photography shot where he's jumping over and throwing the ball from shortstop. And I believe you paid $22 for this card at the time.
I think that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. And now people go nuts for this card and call it like one of the best pieces of photography on a card because it's full color photography. And I mean, what an amazing action shot. That wasn't a thing they did, to Bobby's point. Like, you didn't get action shots like this in the
Right.
50s cards.
Mhm.
So like this is like a staple in collecting communities now. You see this at card shows now on tables. And you would have never seen a Pee Wee Reese card on a table.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you called this like 20 years ago. So there is something to, I'm curious though, Dad, what was it that you outside of obviously the photography, like why did you decide to buy this card? Like
Well,
you telegraphed this one.
Well, I love the horizontal, and I hadn't noticed a lot of horizontal cards from the 52 collection, 1952 cards. So I like the horizontal, but I thought, the action it's so rare to see an action shot of baseball anywhere at that time. I
Yeah.
had heard of Pee Wee Reese, but he wasn't like a household name or anything. He's popular. But I just thought, I just like the way the card looks and the action. I'm going to buy this card, So it was that simple,
Yeah. It's a good reminder that sometimes you just buy the card because you like the way it looks. And eventually other people end up agreeing like, hey, that actually is, the consensus is that card is amazing. And we all want it now.
That's what it was about that Griffey, Dad. You remember when we saw the Griffey Metal Universe card? I mean, I posted it on my Instagram today, or I put it in the blog post. Like, real quick, Dad, first of all, do you remember what it was about those cards that really caught your attention when we first saw them? I'll show everybody the Pudge again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just unusual. Excuse me. The colors, the photography, that it was that sort of thing, I guess.
Right.
Even with the hockey cards that I used to get for you, is that I was so used to the images back in the 60s and stuff that these new cards in the 90s were just like outstanding stuff. So I thought it was just the colors, the shot, the pose of the player that was, whatever he was doing, stopping a puck or catching the ball or throwing or whatever.
Yeah.
That was kind of what it was for me. I wasn't so much into the value, although that came into play as well, to make some big investments for you. But
Yeah.
To get you started was more what the picture looked like on the card.
Right. And now we went to a card show a couple years ago at that mall, and my dad came with me, and I was like, all right, we're gonna do a game. Like, you go off and find the coolest card for under $10 that you can, and I'll do the same, and let's see who wins. And he actually won. Everybody voted for him. So like,
that dad vision is real. They can see something. They're like, this card is cool.
And real quick, Dad, I don't know if you know this, they didn't do it for baseball. but the basketball version of these had these parallels called precious metal gems, and those are considered the most valuable 90s cards ever made. And so you were onto something there. But like when you were looking around at the tables and stuff, David was talking about this too. He's seeing the whole spectrum of everything that's offered now. What was like the major difference? And then what was something that caught your eye still?
Again, I'm going to go back to, there was something that caught my eye about the card. I know what you're talking about. Right? Yeah. And plus it was, Kirill, and it was just something about the color placement and the picture that just would catch my eye. It's really actually hard to explain. But that would be it.
What about
it's like a piece of art, a little bit, right? Like you kind of see it and you're like, I don't know why this is giving me like a vibe or a feeling that I just kind of like this.
Yeah.
That's it. The vibe of it.
Right.
It's just like anything else, I guess. If you're looking at a car or a piece of clothing, I mean, if you kind of know how you feel about it, and you just I'm gonna get that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What was the biggest difference between us going to the shops in the 90s, right, and collecting hockey and then Mariners? What was the biggest difference that you noticed?
As far as you're talking about that show at that moment?
Yeah, because they had cards from every era out there. Like, was there anything like, wow, this is way different than I remember?
Well, I saw a lot of the old football cards that I remember when I was a kid, and I wanted to pick some up, but I'm sure my wife would have not been happy with me. But
I didn't like that.
I saw a Johnny Unitas card, and again, the pose was very basic, like he was posing for a picture. It wasn't, him in action, but I loved Johnny Unitas when I was a kid. I remember having some of his cards, and I thought, oh boy, I sure would like to have it. That was my initial reaction to it, is that there was a blend of the old and the new. A lot of the new stuff, I would say, was greater in numbers, but it just brought back that feeling when I was a kid to see some of those cards that I had when I was little. Right. That was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. But that goes back to us, Ben. Like, we still want to, bring that feeling back, even with the newer stuff that we're buying. It's like, this gives me a vibe from the 90s or the 80s or like a vintage. That's why you love Allen and Ginter. That's why I like, vintage Metal Universe stuff, because it reminds me of that. Like, do you feel like we're always going to be chasing that? I feel like that'll be around forever.
I want to say no, right? Because I don't want to be that person that's like, that was the kind of music I listened to when I was 19 and 20, and now I just listen to that forever. I don't try to find or understand the new thing that's cool. So I do still really try to like look through, and Matt and I have talked about this before, like looking through the new products that are coming out, trying to find things that like fit our check boxes, like what make us happy as a collector. If we could have one of those, like I still try to find those things in new cards and not just I don't want to be a curmudgeon about cards, because and Dad remembers these guys too. When we would go to shows, and you saw them at the National probably too, the old guys with their old cards, that's all they want to collect. And they are experts on it. And that's great to be an expert and like, I only do this thing, but to be like, ho hum, this is all I like. And I don't want to even entertain any new things that are coming out. Like I want to try to continue to be open-minded and like find something fun about the new cards that are coming out as well. Right. There's a bit of maybe trying to be like youthful in that, right? What are the kids into? What's kind of fun about that? Why do they like it? That sort of thing. Like coming at it from a place of understanding, so that I can maybe also get excited about that, right? Like they won't make Ichiro cards forever. At some point, he won't be relevant,
right?
But they will be making the guy that's active. And if I'm watching baseball, that's also fun. Or hockey, a guy that's active. Matt, you're gonna go through this with your guy.
Yeah,
I know. But you might want to have to. I know you already have some side quest stuff you've set up for yourself to keep up with guys that are or women that are going to be active in hockey, but there does come a point where they're like, we're not going to make Christy Matheson cards anymore. He's been dead for 100 years. Like there will come a time where to stay relevant in the hobby, you have to understand the new collecting habits and those sorts of things. So
don't you worry, I'm already on him. Like, we need to get a post-retirement deal done with Marc-Andre Fleury right now. Like, let's go. You're right. I mean, at some point life is going to change, and the same goes for collecting, and so you need to embrace that change. And so I thought we'd do Ben, we could do kind of more like a rapid fire for our dads here the last 15 minutes, just like a quick response. And so what we'll do here, guys, is I'll ask a question, and if I ask it, my dad will answer, and then Ben's dad will answer, and then vice versa. Ben, if you ask it, your dad, and then mine can answer. I just thought we'd get some quick hot takes from you guys without any research being done. I know, David, that's going to be hard because you love doing the research, but I figured it would be fun to do some quick fire questions before we wrap it up. So
Yeah.
I'm going to fire one off first. What do you both like about modern cards, or what is something you like about the modern cards that you're seeing? Because Dad, you're seeing me post them. David, you see Ben message you and post. So Dad, you first. What's something about modern cards that you like?
I think it's just the basic change from the old flat cardboard and the picture pressed on top of it, like we used to have when David and I were, kids, right? But the color combinations, the different layouts, whether it's see-through plastic or however they make the card, that would be the first thing that I would say.
Okay.
Just the appearance.
How about you?
Yeah,
David?
I would agree with what Bobby says. That the artwork and the cards today is phenomenal, and the things that they've done with, the cuts and the clarity and the clear spots and autographs. I mean, all of it is so sophisticated and so beautiful that it's some of the greatest art I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And so I think it's. But like I say, I have reservations about the same card with 4 or 5 different colors as to whether or not one's really worth much more than the other. Other than the fact there's only 25 of the gold autograph, and there's 200 of something else. But I don't completely understand the value system. But boy, the photography, the artwork is out of this world.
Yeah, great.
Hey Ben, you need to get your dad into Panini Prism. No, don't do that. There's like 50 different parallels of one card. Insane.
He's probably also thinking of like the last box he got for me as like a Christmas present was Stadium Club.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Amazing photography, right? Like the cards are crisp. Like that's the way you see Stadium Club, and you're like, these are gorgeous.
Yep. Yeah. Those go back to the 90s Stadium Club cards. They still look amazing. So it's nice. It's kind of a good blend of the new and the old for sure. So yeah, good point.
I've got sort of a potentially funny one for both of y'all. If you're chatting with one of your friends and they ask what Matt or I's hobby is, how do you describe what the hell it is we're doing with this?
Bobby, you go ahead.
Okay. And it's like, I don't have an answer for it.
I have people ask me quite often what Matt does and what's his hobbies and stuff like that. And I said, well, his passion is collecting cards. A lot of people from the walk of life where I used to work understand it, because my former job, a lot of guys would do it that would kind of take their mind off other things, and they had collected ever since they were a kid. In the music circle of it, some kind of chuckle at it, but others understand, because with musicians, you collect different instruments. Well, they understand the value and why you do it, so they understand what that card collecting thing is all about for him. But even though what he's doing now for employment makes me super happy, because that's my favorite card company. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
fair enough. Would wholeheartedly agree with that. Also, yeah, I guess it's not what his hobby is now. It's what does he do for a living?
Right.
Opens up the whole conversation.
That's a way easier route to go first, and then tell them I collect. Oh yeah, of course he does, because he works there, right?
Yeah, of course. He that's what he does for work. Of course, he also collects that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think it's so cool, Matt, that you've gotten a job there, because that was, where I first started my searches, and it was a fairly new thing. I think when I was getting into eBay and looking at cards.
Right.
Nothing like the amount of cards that are out there today on eBay, just to kind of just start. But I think that
do you even tell anybody about or does it even come up for you, Dad, when you're talking to people about collecting cards?
Yeah. I would have folks that would ask me, well, what has Ben like to do? And at that age, I'd say, well, one of the things he likes to do the most right now is baseball cards. And they said, "Oh, did you play baseball?" And I said, "Yeah, a little bit in the Little League, but he was not a player after that." I think it's just the history and the artwork, and some players that are better than others, and it's he's very interested in it all of a sudden. And so I'm going to do it with him. The only other thing we did a lot of was fishing for a while when he was in high school. I bought a boat and we fished a lot. Well, not a lot, but some. We did better at this lake without the boat than we did at the bigger lake with the boat. So the boat never got that much use. But he and I had things in common that we could do. And thank goodness we did, because I think it really paid big dividends in terms of our relationship, both then and forever, when you can have a lot in common with your dad. And so the baseball cards were a way for us to communicate.
And still are.
To me, that was probably the most important thing at the time. And so I got into it because it was a communication venue for me with my son.
It's the same with us too, right, Dad? I mean, the cards would foster, especially when baseball came around, because fun fact for those that don't know, and I've tried to find a video of him many times and I'm still not successful, but my father was a security guard in the evenings at the Mariners games when they were played at the Kingdom. And so he worked there a variety of many years. And, once I started collecting baseball, he'd be at the games and I would talk to him about the Mariners, and he would, so we had something to talk about, and the cards kind of fostered those discussions. And long story short, and I wish I had the ball here. I know where it's at. Don't worry, Dad. He got Joey Cora to autograph a ball for me, and he wasn't technically supposed to do that as a security guard, but just stuff like that. I mean, again, collecting really, when people ask you guys, I hope you both mention that it's a way to connect with your sons, because that's really at the core of what we do. Yeah, we buy them and invest in them and all these different things, but I think at the root of everything, right, Ben, we do it because of the relationship that we get with our fathers, and also how it's fostered with our friendships with other collectors. That's the reason I keep doing it. Without the friendships and everything, this would be meaningless to me, at least.
Yeah, it'd be somewhat lonely, right? It's really fun to be able to trade, share. Oh, you're interested in this. For me, the baseball history came sort of later as I got older, that I was interested in that part of it. But that was another different way for my dad and I connect, but also for me to find other collectors who knew this baseball history and got me interested in, learning that part of it, which made me find all these different players and interesting stories where I want to have a piece of that because it's such a cool story. And these people know that story and they're interested in that 30s to 40s era, whatever. There's so many different avenues to collect, and really having a card is just almost a token of that memory, but also just something cool to own and look at as a piece of art. It serves so many purposes.
Right. No, that's awesome. All right. Well, I have another fun question. Again, kind of a quick answer, but Dad, if you were to be able to collect with me in some way, how do you think that would look? What would you collect? Who would you collect? Where would you go with that?
Well, the answer to that is easy. It would be hockey.
Right.
And I would collect Lemieux and all the guys from the 90s that I used to watch on my days off from law enforcement that would help me, kind of get my mind off stuff. But I love that game so much. It kind of overtook baseball and football for me. Mm-hmm. But it would be that.
Okay.
That was a short answer.
How about you, David?
Yeah. I would say that, as things have changed, I'm less confident at making recommendations to Ben, but he still respects me and asks me what I think, particularly if it's a significant purchase. And I still like the fact that, he does that, and that we were close because of the baseball cards for several years, that and fishing. And so it was valuable to me. And actually, I learned a lot during the early days, but it didn't take long for him to eclipse me when he really started getting into it and staying at the baseball card shop while I went somewhere else. And we were closer because of it, and we needed that. And so that, was really important. Going to the National with him, a year ago, that was just fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And I learned a lot about what's going on, in the current day. So, right. But I think relationship with your son and and all your kids is real important. Find out what they're interested in and be a part of that as much as you can. And it was easy for me because I always liked sports. Played sports when I was in school. So, I had a lot of fun doing that with Ben, and that I would recommend it to anyone out there who's got young kids. Think about what they're interested in, get involved. Yeah.
Name one baseball player if you had to collect one active player today, because you watch all those Dodgers games. Who are you collecting? It doesn't matter what the cards are. You're just like, this is a player. That's who I want to collect.
An active player today, who would I collect?
Yeah.
Gosh. I would ask my son.
It's just for fun. Don't think about the money side at all. It's just like, who are you enjoying watching?
Right.
Like I just want pictures of that guy.
Yeah. Well, just about anybody that's a starter on the Dodgers today, I like all of them, and I have collected a couple of cards of a couple of those guys. But winning the World Series last year was really fun for me to watch.
Oh yeah.
And
You'd be a Dodgers team collector. Got it.
Yeah, you collect team sets. Yeah.
Yep, he a team set guy of Dodgers players.
Yeah, that's right. Dad, is there a current player? Well, we already know who our favorite player is. But now that he's retiring, if you were to collect one active hockey player, what hockey player, when you watch him, doesn't matter the team, but like just really gets you excited when you see him playing well or helping his team out?
Wow, that's a tough one.
He used to like the Lightning a lot, but he's off that now, thankfully.
No,
Done with the Lightning.
I still like him. I watched the game.
Okay.
I think it was yesterday, and they didn't. I don't know. Brandon Montour, maybe.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Joey Decord, maybe.
Yep.
That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, he really liked Yanni Gord, but he got traded back to Tampa, so there goes that, unfortunately. All right, that's good. I do want to share a couple of things, Ben, before you ask your next one. Luke said, actually, my earliest card memories were actually with my mom. My dad gave me a love for baseball. My mom fostered my card hobby. That's awesome. I don't hear that story very much. I will say,
very unique.
Shout out to my mom. She used to always buy me new pages for my book. She had no idea what cards were worth anything, but she always made sure I had good pages in my brand new pages in my binders.
Yep.
Thanks for that, Mom. And then Persh shared, my dad would bring us to the local store in the late 80s, early 90s to buy O-Pee-Chee. Dad remembers O-Pee-Chee, of course. Packs, and the lady would sell him one pack, so he brought us 3 kids to get packs to complete his set. That's
one pack per kid, right? So I get 3.
Yeah, that's great. And then Persh also said this as well, Dad. So that's very kind to him. He's been here for almost every episode we've had, so we really appreciate him being here. All right, Ben, you're up, dude. What you got for us?
Oh man, so we kind of went over that one. More specific to my dad, but I think Bobby might have an answer for this one as well. Was there a period where we were like doing own research for cards? Maybe it was when you got back into Pinnacle stuff, where you're looking for a card and you got like particularly excited about like one card you found. I know my dad doing those eBay searches. Like, was there a time where you're like, that's one particular card I'm just excited about?
Yeah. You're asking me what card that would be, or?
Yeah, was there like one card you just ran across? Maybe you didn't even buy it, but just a card you saw in a search, or maybe something you got recently. Like I know you got like that Will Smith rookie, or
Yeah. Well, I do like Will Smith. I think the years when you and I, it's not contemporary, but when you and I got into the Griffey years, of course, I have regrets that we didn't buy more of that stuff. The common card is worth so much money, I can't believe how much it went up. But the Griffey cards, and I've really enjoyed, the discussions with you, Ben, recently about Ichiro, and I had no idea who he was until you told me. And then I started tracking it, and I realized really what an incredible career he had.
Right.
And we were talking about him likely getting, perhaps one of the few guys that's ever had 100% vote for the Hall, and he almost did it, but some
one.
Some guy that didn't like him, I guess. I don't know. But I've enjoyed listening to you about Ichiro and looking at the Ichiro cards that you've collected. So I've really read up a lot about him, and I've become enamored with the guy. He's just an amazing baseball player. Watching that bunt series you sent me one time with a link to the bunt series.
All his infield bunts.
Yeah, that's one of the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I have to shout you out. I had a couple that I pulled out from the collection that you bought. Here's another one. I was into Ichiro. My dad bought this one, again, 2001, for I think $8.
Wow.
The Pujols rookie card, and this is like the
Yeah.
Topps Chrome late edition card. $8, I think he paid for this card, and he was like, "I don't know, I just think this guy's going to be good."
He was right.
The same copy too. So this is the same copy that he bought back in 2001. All he did was touch it, but it's the same copy he bought.
That's
And it was
awesome.
literally just another instinct thing. My dad was like, "I don't know, it just seems like he's strong. He just hits the ball hard. I think he's going to be good." I'm like, well, one of the best ever, actually. It was a good call, Dad.
Yeah. Come to think of it, that's a good one. I know I'm kind of want to segue to that because I want to test my dad's memory, and I promise you'll be able to remember this. The first question, Dad, is when it comes to the Mariners, who was the nicest player on the team when you worked security there?
Jay Buhner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what did he used to do for you?
So when my department did security at the Kingdom, whenever the Canadian teams were playing Seattle, the Canadian fans would come, of course, and they were always afraid that they were going to jump down in the field, so they stuck me in the dugout of the Mariners. And thank God that nothing happened, but I would kind of mess around with the players, and the players would, tease me or whatever. But we had to park. Back then we could take our squad cars to the games, but we had to park on the south lot of the Kingdom. And what Jay Buhner and his wife would do is they'd have this golf cart that would take them to their cars. Well, they would offer me a ride in their golf cart to take me to my cart so I can get out of there. And they're always really, really cool people.
Yeah.
See, that makes me want to go buy a Buhner card like right now. And you hear a story, just like I want to have a card and be like, "Here's my Jay Buhner card, and here's a cool story about how awesome he was."
Yeah.
Well,
Also, a great player.
Yeah.
He would ask me all kinds of questions about my line of work and stuff. And, he would say, "Yeah, I sure would like to ride with you sometime, but I don't know if I can ever get free." So it never did happen. But every time I worked the dugout and he saw me, he would make it a point that I could ride in his golf cart.
That's
at the end of
great.
the game.
Another guy that you didn't talk to him or anything, but you ran across this Ken Griffey Jr. guy once. He was pretty funny, but big difference, right? He was 23, 24 in the prime of his career, but Jay Buhner, he always gave off that like really nice aura. And then Joey Cora, when you asked him to sign the ball, he was nice enough to do. You said it's for my son, I think, right? Yeah.
Now, I feel bad talking about this because I could have gotten a lot of trouble back then for doing this, but I was going to work the dugout. I think the Blue Jays were in town, and I had baseball with me, and we're not supposed to talk to the players at all unless they talk to you, right? But I knew my son loved Joey Cora, so after the game was over, I said, "Mr. Cora, excuse me." And he said, "Yes." I said, "Would you mind signing this for my son?" "Yes, I will do that," in his accent. And he signed it for him. And I knew that this was going to just make Matt super, super happy. And I guarded that ball till I gave it to Matt with my life. And, I hit it in my apartment and everything else. So, that was fun.
Yeah, that was really special. I still have, the autograph is badly faded. And honestly, what I want to do is he's still coaching, I think. I want to send it to him and have him sweet spot the other side of the ball. So there's 2 autographs in there. That would be pretty cool.
That would
Hey,
be cool.
you remember my dad asking you for this? But the last question I want to ask, and this goes to both of you. So this will be a fun one. Dad, first to you. Do you remember a specific card that you bought and hid in like the bag of cards we left with way back in the day? Because I'm David, while he's answering this, if you could think about like a card that you surprised Ben with that he had no clue about, that would be fun. But Dad, there's a specific card. We were at the Mill Creek card show or card store, and I'm like, "Oh, look at this card of blank player," and it had like a $20 price tag on it. Which you remember, Ben, like that was off limits. You never asked for something that expensive.
That was nuts.
And of course, Dad's like, "Nah, that's not going to happen." So of course, I was like, "All right, no worries." I'm looking through all the goalie stuff, and in the process of me being on the other side of the store looking at goalie singles, he snuck a card in, the paper bag you would get with the cards in it. He snuck one in it. Do you remember the card, Dad?
I'm sorry, I don't, but I'm thinking it's either Griffey,
It was a goalie.
Tom Brasso.
It was a goalie that came on the scene because they played one game in the preseason for Tampa Bay.
Oh, the female goalie.
Yeah. So it was this one, Magnon Rayon. Yeah. So we're talking about cool photos. I mean, that's one of the better photos she has on a card of hers, and it was from Classic. You remember Classic?
Oh, yeah.
All the prospect cards and stuff. But, this card was sitting in that case, and I'm just like, man, look how sick that looks because their setup is awesome. And had a $20 price tag on him, and Ed's like, yeah, no way. And so, of course, he, being the amazing father he is, he sacrificed an expensive lunch or something, and he grabbed it. The guy at the card shop sold it to him, and when he gave him the bag, he slid it in there. So yeah, good stuff, Dad. Good work. Anything like that come to mind, David, where you snuck a card to Ben or got him a surprise?
Well, there was a card I stayed up very late one night on eBay, thinking that Ben would be real excited to have. And I'm trying to think of the player's name now. Ben, the card that had the pinhole in it.
Lou Gehrig.
34. Who?
Lou Gehrig, the 1933.
Yeah, that's
Lou
it.
Gehrig.
1933 Lou Gehrig.
Wow.
This card looked beautiful, except some kid had stuck a pin, pinned it to a cork board, and it had a hole in the middle. But the card was, it was probably a 4 or a 5 or something other than that.
Yeah.
In terms of a rating. And I stayed up real late, and then I surprised Ben I didn't hide it or anything. I just gave it to him. And
that was one where that stayed in your collection.
A card, but it's got a pinhole in it.
You were upset about that and was like, this is a crazy card that you even bought this. And I think that was actually the card that started me going this has to go in your own box because I can't have this.
Right.
And so he kept his own box with those cards in it for the longest time until he combined them all.
It wasn't that expensive. It was over $100.
Well, at the time, it was over $100. So put it that way. Now it would be a lot more.
Over $100. But there was 60 some bids on it, and so I was really kind of surprised that I got it right close to the end of that.
I didn't pull that one out, but I did pull an example of at the time he was buying stuff like this. This is a T206. This is Buck Ewing, so he's a Hall of Famer, great pitcher from the era. My dad got into finding this old stuff like this. I brought this one out because I don't like to pull the Gehrig out too much, but I brought this one out because I think he bought this for $10, $12. Now this is a very expensive T206 Hall of Fame card that he bought raw that has no creases. It's a beautiful card.
Love the color, man.
It's a gorgeous card, but that was when I made my dad get his own collection because he started finding the stuff that he was interested in and the history of baseball. And I was like, well, that's not Ken Griffey. I was like, he spent $15 and it wasn't on Griffey. What are you doing? I was like, you can put those in your own collection. I don't understand those yet. Turns out he was right.
When I had my cards and he had his cards because he didn't want me to give him a card that cost that much.
Well, I also didn't know who Buck Ewing was at the time.
I really believed that they would go up in value. So
right, you knew. Your dad clearly knows, and now we all see why you ask for his opinion even on stuff that he doesn't collect. Is he just has the knack for knowing. You know what I mean? That's pretty cool. I think it would be fun, Ben. We talked about this on the phone the other day. We both have kind of embarrassing but funny stories from collecting, and I'm going to let you go first on this one, Ben, because he was talking about that. See if you guys remember these.
I don't know if my dad will even necessarily remember this one, maybe, but this is from, this is 1999, right? Yeah, so this is 1999 Upper Deck MVP. This is a Griffey card that came out that year. And it was an early release for the season. It's Griffey with the swing, a piece of his bat. These were super hard to pull. And this was 99. So you had started doing the eBay stuff in 98. And I kind of learned what you were doing on there. And I saw a picture of this card in the last Beckett we got. I was looking through it and I wanted this card so bad. Everything about this design was so cool. Yeah. So I got on eBay when you still had to open under your account. It was when you weren't around and I found a copy, it was bidding, and I put bids in myself. I'm 9 years old. So I shouldn't be doing this at all, but I want this card so bad. I'm in love with this card. It's the only card I've ever wanted. It's the only card that matters in my life, right? Mm-hmm. I put in a couple bids. I lose. So I don't even win the card, but the guilt that I've dealt with. And then the next day, it probably hurt me so much more than it hurt you. But the next day, you were online and you were like, "Hey, I saw some bids for this card." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry!" And just like immediately started crying. I eventually picked up a copy now, like 20 years later,
yeah, let's
of
go.
the card. So I do have a copy, but I didn't win that one. But I do remember wanting it so bad. I don't remember. Do you remember that story at all? We were still at Bellacourt Drive.
Yeah,
And it
no,
was
I
like
don't.
very early on. See,
Yeah.
so I figured it was just a car. It was just a story that damaged me because you weren't even upset. You were like, "Oh, okay, that's kind of." I don't know why you were on my computer like bidding on stuff, but for me, I was like, I did such
I
a
don't
bad
remember
thing behind
that.
your back.
Yeah.
And I didn't want. I watched this card for a long time and didn't want to get it because I felt so bad about me trying to nefariously get it as a kid. That like
That's
I didn't
funny.
pick it up for a very long time. I was like, I don't deserve this card.
That's funny. The guilt finally wore off.
Yeah, I was like, no,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. I'm gonna get it now. It's cool.
Yeah, there were several cards that did come out at that time that had a piece of something
Mhm.
connected.
And you were very resistant to it, which is why I think I was guilty because we were really into the '97 set that had Griffey, Gwyn, and Ray Ordonez, just the three.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And
Yep.
I gotten that Gwyn by trading that Charizard card. And so we were really into those. And this was now like 2 years later, and you had seen a bunch come out, and you were kind of like, I don't like this. And I was like, but I love this one. I can't tell my dad; he won't be into it. And that was definitely part of it. That he was like, I don't think this memorabilia thing is a smart idea. You shouldn't buy this card. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try to buy it behind his back. Like he wouldn't find out when eBay
Yeah,
tried. Like
Right.
he wouldn't know. Like very, very 9-year-old thinking. Like maybe
when it comes in the mail, what's this?
oh, where did this come from?
Better change my email address. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one
Jeez.
always stuck to me. I never did that again because I felt so bad about it.
For you, man.
Wow, that's
a
funny.
guilt one. Yeah, mine's not like that. Mine, I was only like 5 at the time or something, but Dad will remember the Everett house, and there was like the pantry that was in the back by the kitchen, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
all of Mom's checks were in there. So I had the bright idea that I would take one and take it to the card shop, and my grandpa took me. And so, of course, I told my grandfather about this on the phone, and he goes, you can imagine Grandpa Bob. He's like, how is your mom not going to know about this? And so, yeah, the next day, of course, he told my mom, and we had to have a talk about like, you can't just take a check and then take it to the card shop and put whatever you want on it. I didn't know how it worked, right? Of course.
I don't know.
just
You
knew
just
that-
show up with like a check and then you get cards, right? And I was
like,
like,
yeah,
I can
let's
just bid on
go.
eBay and then I get to have that card.
Yeah,
Like no
of
one's
course.
gonna know.
Yeah, and then of course not. So yeah, that was definitely my most embarrassing card, related story. I think we've all, tried to do something along those lines when we were very young, not really knowing, but kind of knowing, and
Yeah.
so,
I don't think I ever
Yeah.
threw a fit though, right, Dad? I don't know, Matt, Bobby. Did you ever hear a fit from Matt about not getting a card?
oh, don't, yeah, oh, geez, yeah.
Let's hear it.
I'll tell it. My dad used to come visit on the weekends, and he was very busy. He was a police officer, right? Of course, didn't know anything about that. And he would come, and one time he didn't show up with cards. God forbid, I didn't get to just hang out with my father, and I lost it. And he just got up and left. I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. But he, looking back, it was embarrassing, right? Because you're
Yeah.
like, what the heck was I thinking, right? So he doesn't like talking about it, but I'll talk about it because I think for me it was a reminder like, okay, the cards really don't mean anything. It's the time with your father that's important. And so from then on, we used to go like play hockey and play baseball. That would be the focus. And he loves making fun of me. I would ask to go to the card shop. He said, not today, Matt. And I would like turn away from him in the car, and he would try to put his hand on me, and I'd like may throw a fit. And yeah, I wasn't a brat at all, right, Dad?
I learned that lesson too, though.
Yeah, it's not as bad as what Matt is saying, but yeah, he would if I didn't have a certain amount of stuff set aside for us to go to the, we'd kind of toss up either a movie or the card store or whatever I had planned for the weekend. He would get upset, but it's not as bad as what he said. But yeah, the one time we were in the car, I'll never forget it. He turned his body away and was looking out the passenger window, and I would put my hand on his shoulder and said, "Matt, you okay?" And go, "Eh."
all over a
taken-
bunch of cards.
Yeah, it would take him some time to get over it, but
Oh.
it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. All right, Ben, please make me feel better. Go ahead.
Oh, it took me a long time when we would go to like the shop or go to a show, and the idea of like looking and not leaving with something was
Oh,
it was hard, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going, you're looking like, oh, these cards are amazing. This is incredible. I just want to leave with something. The idea of like, you have a budget, and if you don't find something that you like that you've been looking for, then
right.
it's okay to leave with nothing, which is so hard as a kid, and it's still hard now. Look at what I got in Cleveland. I just bought a bunch of stuff. Like, it's still hard to go and see stuff in
Yeah.
person and not want to grab it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's
Yeah.
actually part of the exercise you and I, Matt, still do on this podcast, and we talk with people and get their feedback and get
Right.
advice on it. It's like having constraint. I mean, the whole internet is potentially your market, and it's even more tempting when you're in person and you see something, whether it's a card, a piece of art, a piece of clothing, whatever it is, when you see it in person, to understand like the restraint of not having to like buy it right now.
Right. For sure. No, 100%, man. Yeah.
But as a kid, that's a very hard lesson. It gets easier as you get older.
Yeah.
It's even hard now, though, right? Because I think we have the ability, if we want, to grab something extravagant and in going through that process. Do I really need this? Do I really need this? And working at Upper Deck, I get to see a variety of cards because we get to case check everything, right? So we got to make sure it's delivering the way it's supposed to, right? Every product. And so I get to hold incredible cards, right? Like, oh my gosh, like, so I'm not going to say I'm numb to it, but I definitely have been able to really narrow in exactly what I want. And it's been great,
Yeah.
For sure. So kind of a fun idea to wrap it up. It's been awesome having you both on here, just reminiscing and kind of for people to see like where the roots of all this began, right? Because it started with both of our dads. I'll go to my dad first, then we'll go to David. I just, when you look at the collection that I post, you follow that and you see the stuff behind me and you see where I'm at now compared to where we started. Like, what do you think about? What comes to mind when you kind of are reminiscing and thinking about where we started and where I'm at now with collecting?
I think it's just amazing to the point of where you've taken this passion of yours with collecting. I thought, honestly, like it happened with me, I thought that this would kind of phase out as you get into, senior and high school and move on to college or whatever. I thought it would kind of phase out for you.
Right.
But it's just amazing to me where you've taken this, and even the bigger passion or not bigger, but the more passion you have for it. I'm very impressed with that. And what your guys' community of card collecting or trading or selling, what has become. It wasn't like that when David and I were kids. I mean, you just had them. You would trade with your friends. And then how the internet has taken this thing is just amazing to me.
Right. Oh, yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
What about you, Dad?
Yeah. It is. I guess I'm very impressed with how far both of you young men have gone with this. And, Ben has more recently shown me that, it's not just the cards, it's the relationships that he has with people.
Right.
And that brings him, I think, as much joy. When he explained about the Otani exchange he had a few sessions ago and showed us some of those cards, I realize it's a way to communicate and develop friendships. And I can see in him that that's become equally important. Someone who shares the same enthusiasm that you share for the space of collecting that you do, immediately you understand each other better than other people are going to understand you. If you try to explain to someone who doesn't collect baseball cards at all that you collect these cards, they're just going to think you're out of your mind.
Right.
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes.
But, because it brings you closer to other people that have similar desires, I think it's wonderful for you. And I'm impressed with that, perhaps more than, any money Ben's made. He's developed friendships that have respect for the same things that he has. And that's important.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Ben, I'll throw this to you too, because I've told this a few times, but from your perspective, I don't know if you've really talked about it, but like before you showed up, David, like we all ended up in the house for that first night. And it's just like with anybody. Sometimes when you first meet somebody, you can just tell right away, like, okay, they've got that same passion and energy, right? So I think immediately it was just like, there's going to be a friendship here, right? Is that how it was for you too, Ben?
Yeah, and it's almost when you know someone is really into like a specifically like this in our case, like a niche hobby. There's
Yeah,
so much work you have to do personally to like understand and time invested into that thing that
for
you
sure.
kind of already know what type of person they are, right? So I
Mhm.
wasn't gonna walk in the room and be like, well, what kind of personalities am I walking into here? It's like, no, all these guys are like kind of into this weird thing that requires like research and time on the internet and time
Right.
doing this like investigative work and collecting and like there's a certain style that you and personality you have to be into that.
For
So it
sure.
kind of already disarms you a lot if you have something you're really into like this that requires a certain personality and effort to go into it to like reach the level that you even care enough to post or go to the national, but also
Right.
have a certain type of collection. Like you're so disarmed right away. You're just like, no, this is going to be fun. On some level, I'm going to connect with these people. And that's been true for a lot of people met in the hobby. It's like, I'll meet people and I would not have been friends with them or probably talk to them without this first connection to open the door, right? Like it's the ultimate break the ice
It is.
to
Yeah.
have a hobby like this that you can be so invested in. If somebody else is like that as well, in some way, you guys are going to get along, period. If
Yeah.
you care about it in the same way, that just already there's some wavelength you guys are on that's similar.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and Ben was up till like 2 a.m. asking questions about athletes and cards and stuff. I'm like, I love the way this dude thinks. Like he's just going and going and going and going.
So I
And
want to know your history. It's like, I know how I get here, how I
yeah,
got here. You tell me how you got here.
right. Well, and that my father will probably laugh and smile because he knows how passionate I can get about certain things in life. But to like have that passion met, like I love Greg, I love Alan. They're wonderful people. And then who else was there with us? There was somebody else.
Blake.
Blake, yeah. They were fading really fast. And Ben and I are just like 2 a.m. just going for it. And so I thought, like, all right, this dude's got the same level. Alan has mentioned many times, like, Matt, how do you keep that passion so high? And it's like, I think you get along with everybody in the hobby, but when somebody's on the same wavelength, with how they collect and why they collect and their story, like hearing your dad talk about all these different things, I'm like, man, this is resonating big time because that's kind of the same experiences I went through with my dad when I got to see him. We'd talk about players and we'd look at different goalie cards and which ones are better than this. And so, yeah, it's really, really cool to have been able to have met you guys and hear those similar stories, right? It brings me back to my roots of collecting, which is what this is all about.
Yep.
Right. So
yeah,
that's been
so
really
fun to have Bobby you and Dad you on here. It's like to the point of finding somebody on the wavelength. It's also fun to do something like this where it almost feels like it recharges your batteries as a collector. Like hearing from you guys and getting your stories and like having this conversation. It's just I'm like back in again. I'm at 100% as a collector again. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we really appreciate your guys' time on here. I know it's trading cards are maybe not something that's always on your radar, but I want to say, thank you to both of you for your involvement on social media. Dad, you like a lot of my posts and you've commented quite often. And then David, you've been great. You've been on almost every one of these shows, adding your comments, and that really means a lot to me to have you both involved because we spend a lot of time and effort doing this, and it's better shared with others, right? So thank you both for your time spent with us on here for sure. Any closing comments on your end, Ben?
Like I said, batteries recharged. Time to go out and do some more collecting this week. We got the end of the month post we're going to make this month, so keep an eye out for that, folks. That'll be like middle of the week. We'll drop the 5 categories we do to rep every month.
For sure.
And yeah, I mean, this has probably been one of my favorite episodes of any podcast I've been on. This is a blast. So
for sure.
Dadcast for the win.
Well, I'm proud of both of you boys, and you've done a great job at what you're doing, and both of you are very successful, and I'm sure that Bobby feels the same way. I'm glad that my kids have friends that are, doing things that are positive. It's a tough world out there today. A lot of bad things going on.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. This was a blast. Brought back some things I haven't thought about in a long time, but I'm very proud of both you guys. It's great to meet Ben and David as well. And thanks for having us on.
Yeah, you bet. Definitely have to find a way to do it again, whether it's like reacting to different cards or opening some cards from our past or something along those lines. But we definitely got to make it happen again. And then hopefully we'll all be able to get together at some point. That would be really special. So
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
want to say thanks to everybody that commented during
Mhm.
the show. We sure appreciate it. Yeah, so Luke, thank you for being here. Bernie was here. Bernie, always enjoy chatting with you, seeing your new cards. Porsche's Corner was here, so thank you for being in here. And we also had Jeff McMahon here and somebody named Jada Burrows. So thank you. I don't know how long she lasted, but I'm glad that she made it in here. So, well, good night, everybody. Enjoy your week, and we will catch you on the next one.